Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badharayanam Sutrabhashya Krita Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram. Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Hari. It's been a couple of weeks since we met, and for the last month, we have had, breaks on and off. So let me briefly bring everybody up to speed what we have covered so far, very briefly. Okay. Bhagavan Shankaracharya has clearly pointed out how rare it is for us to get the human birth and to have this kind of interest in the study of the scriptures and reaching the Parama Purushartha, very rare indeed. Doing that. And in this context, he describes a student who has that kind of a fire to know the truth. And the qualifications of such a student, a seeker, is what he started out with, what we call sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. Viveka Vairagya Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti and Mumukshutvam. So this qualified student goes to the Guru and describes his situation, that he is suffering from this samsara. He has led so far a very religious life, and all that is a Vedic student, all that is there, but still he is tormented by this samsara, and he describes very elaborately his condition, and he surrenders himself to the Guru. This is what we call Guru Upasadanam, reaching the Guru and then asking for this knowledge. And this knowledge he beautifully describes in a set of 7 questions. If you want to know what the 7 questions are, go back to verse 49. I have said it's a very important verse to remember. And he poses those questions, and the Guru is very pleased with him. The way he approached him and the questions that he posed, he knows that here is a very diligent student. And so Shankaracharya, the Guru, glorifies the student. And then we also talked about the qualifications of teacher and all that. Okay. So finally, Bhashyakara starts his teaching. And once again, after glorifying the student and the teaching also, Shankaracharya summed up the entire teaching in 2 verses, 69 and 70. We saw that in the last 2 class periods. He first emphasized the qualifications necessary for the seeker again. This is just a recap. Mokshasya hetuhu pratamo nigadyate vairagyam atyantam anitya vastushu tatah shamaschapi damastitiksha nyasa prasakta kila karmanam vrasham. The acquisition of sadhana chatushtaya sampatti is very important. The 4-fold qualifications of a student, of a seeker. This is the Bahiranga sadhana meant for Jnana Yogyata Prapti, making oneself eligible for and ready for the study, for gaining this Atma Jnana, Brahma Jnana, the self-knowledge. Once you are eligible for knowledge, the second stage is for Jnana Prapti and the appropriate sadhana called Antaranga sadhana. And we had seen that in the last class. Tataha Shrutistan Mananam Satattva Sattattva Dhyanam Chiram Nitya Nirantaram Munehe. Tataha Vikalpam Parametya Vidwan Ihaiva Nirvana Sukham Samruchati. This consists of 3 stages. Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. Now begins the detailed teaching. He takes up the most important topic first. Yad bodhavyam tavedanim atma anatma vivechanam tad uchyate maya samyak shrutvan manyavadharaya. Discriminating between the self and the not self. Most important, the discussion begins. And he first starts with the anatma, the not self, discussion on the anatma. This body first. Majjasti meda pala rakta charma tvagavyaye dhatubir ebi anvitam padoru vaksho bhujaprishta mastakaihi angairi upangairi upayuktam etad. So this anatma is presented first as the shariratrayam, the 3 bodies. In this verse, the sthula body was described in terms of its 7 dhatus, components or ingredients, whatever you want to call. Marrow, bones, fat, flesh, blood, inner and outer skin, or the various parts of the body as the feet, thigh, chest, shoulders, back and head. So what you will see, all this we have studied before in other texts also, Tattva Bodha. But what Vivekacu does it elaborates everything. So there is an elaborate treatment of everything. So we will see this anatma is described very elaborately. So continuing, verse 73. Aham mameti pratitam shariram. Aham mamete pratitam shariram. Mohaspadam stulamitiriyate budaihi. Mohaspadam stulamitiriyate budaihi. Nabo nabasvadahanam bubhumayah. Nabo nobavas. Nabo nabavas dahanam bhumaya sukshmani bhutani bhavanti tani sukshmani bhutani bhavanti tani aham mamete pratitam shariram mohaspadam sulamitiriyate budaihi Nabo nabasvadahanam bhumahayah sukshmani bhutani bhavanti tani. So continuing the discussion, the same topic of describing the anatma, the shariratrayam. He says, mohaspadam, shariram mohaspadam. The body is the basis for all our delusions, moha. The body, which means the physical body here, is the aspadam, the root cause, the fundamental basis for all our moha, delusions, confusions. The reflecting medium, body is the cause of confusion, the seeming limitation. The all-pervading consciousness which expresses in the body is seemingly confined to the body because of the limitations of the body. So that is a mistake we make. What is the mistake? Instead of claiming that I am the all-pervading consciousness, now I claim I am an individual human being. This is called the basic confusion. Because once I claim that kind of individuality, then all other attributes come into play. Once you have identified your body as you, immediately date of birth. When was this body born? Even though consciousness does not have a date of birth, it is eternal, never born, never dies. So there is no date of birth for consciousness, and that is what you truly are. But now you have made the mistake of identifying yourself with the body and you talk about the date of birth. Then you say, I am so many years old, and then you start describing all your physical features. I am dark in complexion, I am lean, I am a man or a woman, whatever. This is my father, my mother. All the stories come, and everything has to do with this body only. All relationships are also related to this body. The parents who gave birth to you, this body, like that. So Bhashyakara says, Moha Aspadam is the root cause of all delusion. Then I begin to question the very consciousness itself. What a tragedy. That question is also raised because of the body only. It creates delusion by making itself available for two types of notions. Aham, mama, iti, as I and my. One is ahankara, the aham buddhi, the I notion, and the other is mamakara, mine, my. So the ahankara means the I notion, and mamakara is the my notion. That itself shows, that itself gives further confusion. I'm not even consistent. Sometimes I say, I am the body. At other times I say, my body is aching. Body is you or body is yours? You're not sure. Sometimes I say I am so and so, in which I include the hand. At other times I say my hand is like this. When I say my hand is hurting, carpal tunnel. Okay. The hand seems to be different from me. Sometimes I say I'm writing. At that time, I mean the hand. Therefore, the body is available for I identification. And the body is available for my identification. Thus, pratitam shariram. Body is identified universally. Ahankara, mamakara, rupena, in the form of I-ness and the my-ness. This body, sthulam iti iryate, is given the name. So this physical body is called sthula shariram, the grossest form of matter. Budaihi, by the wise people. The wise call this sthula shariram. This physical body is made up of 5 elements: Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, and Prithvi. Space, air, fire, water, and earth. Why should we say that it is made out of the 5 elements? It's only to show that the physical body is also matter. By describing its components, which is all matter, 5 elements, we clearly separate it from consciousness. Now we can go by other methods also in science. We can say body consists of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, so on and so forth. We can go by the scientific method. But in tradition, instead of talking about 100 and odd elements of the periodic table, they have the elements in the form of Pancha Bhutani. Whether you talk in terms of Shastra or science, body is made out of elements only. The elements themselves are divided into 2. Sthula Bhutani, the physical, the gross elements, and Sukshma Bhutani, the subtle elements. The gross elements represent the gross matter, and the subtle elements represent the subtle matter. How do we distinguish the two? Gross matter is visible, tangible, whereas the subtle matter is invisible, imperceptible, intangible. Now, first he is going to enumerate the subtle elements. In the second line, you see, Sukshmani Bhutani Bhavanti. There are 5 subtle Sukshmani Bhutani elements. 5 subtle elements. Nabaha, Nabaha means Akasha, space. Nabasvat Vayuhu, air, that which moves in space. Then Dahana. Dahana is more common word for that is Agni, fire. Ambuhu. Ambuhu is Jalam, water. And Bhumihi, Prithvi, earth. Now, how does the subtle elements produce a gross body? You say it is subtle, but the gross body, you can see, very tangible, visible. So, how does the subtle elements bring about the gross body? They do not directly produce it, but they produce the gross body indirectly. And this is explained in the next verse, verse 74. Let us read. परस्परांशैर्मिलितानि भूत्वा परस्परांशैर्मिलितानि भूत्वा स्थूलानि च स्थूलशरीरहेतवः स्थूलानि च स्थूलशरीरहेतवः मात्रास्तदीया विषया भवन्ति मात्रास्तदीया विषया भवन्ति शब्दादयः पञ्चसुखाय भोक्तुः शब्दादयः पञ्चसुखाय भोक्तुः परस्परांशैर्मिलितानि भूत्वा स्थूलानि च स्थूलशरीरहेतवः मात्रास्तदीया विषया भवन्ति शब्दाद्यया पञ्चसुखाय भोक्तुः. As I said, the five sukshma bhutani, the five subtle elements, do not directly produce the physical body. They can produce only the subtle bodies directly. Subtle elements give effect to the subtle bodies directly. Therefore, before producing the physical body, all the subtle elements have to grossify. They have to become gross elements. That process, that grossification process, converting the subtle to the gross elements. And this is called Panchikaranam. This is called Panchikaranam in the Shastra. We saw it in the introductory talk. I talked about it. How Tani, these subtle elements, are combined to produce the gross elements. How does that happen? It is said, Paraspara Amshaihi Militani Bhutva. Paraspara, mutual, but the mutual combination of the five subtle elements. How's that? The group proportion is not given here, but we have seen in other texts, those of you who study texts like Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, etc. It describes it in a little bit detail. In each group, one half of a particular element will be there, and 1/8 of the remaining four elements. So each gross element will have one half of it will be one particular subtle element, and the other four will be 1/8 each. For example, Akasha. One half of Akasha will be taken, and 1/8 of each of Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi are combined with that. And that will give rise to gross Akasha, the gross element of space. Similarly, each of the other four elements, this kind of a mixing up Panchikaranam. In this way, they combine in different proportions to give rise to the 5 gross elements. So in each gross element, the 5 elements are there in different proportions. Then you may ask, if each gross element has all the 5 subtle elements, how do you name them? What do you call them? The rule is whichever subtle element is predominant. Remember, I told you 1/2 would be one particular element. The other half will be divided into the other 4, each one contributing 1/8. So this is how the combination. So there is one predominant subtle element in that cross. Therefore, that will be given that name. For example, where Akasha's proportion is 1/2, 50% of that is Akasha, with the other 12.5% each, 1/8 each. So that will be called the Akasha gross element. Sthula Akasha. In the Akasha gross element, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi, they are there, but in much smaller proportion. Shankaracharya does not elaborate the Panchikaranam here, but he just indicates that Paraspara Amshaihi Militani, mixing up, Paraspara Amshaihi, the mutual components are all mixed together. Mutual combination, Stulani, the gross elements are formed. The subtle form, the elements remain as Tanmatra. This is another word you will come across. Tanmatra. That element alone. And they are not perceptible. They are invisible. Therefore, they are called subtle. But in the gross form, all 5 elements are present, but they are now perceptible as matter. These 5 gross elements are Sthula Sharira Hetavaha. They alone produce the Hetu. Hetu means cause, origin. They produce the Sthula Sharira. So, Sthula Bhutani produce Sthula Sharira. That is why the physical body is called Bhautika Shariram. They come from Bhutas, the elements. They are called Bhautika. Bhautika is usually translated technically elemental. From element, what comes is elemental. More common usage is Bhautika, physical. So the physical body is born out of Panchabhutas. Therefore, the physical part belongs to the earth. The water content in the body belongs to the water. The temperature in the body belongs to the fire. The breathing that we have corresponds to Vayu. And of course, there is plenty of space in the body. That is the Akasha Tattva. Thus, the 5 gross elements constitute very easily recognized also. Even though the basic constituents are the same, the proportion varies from individual to individual. All of us have the same 5 elements are there, but the proportion is different. Even if you talk about in scientific terms, when you go get some blood work done, okay, they have sodium, it should be in this normal range. Sometimes it is low, sometimes it is low, sometimes it is high. That means it changes from one person to another. That's why they prescribe a normal range. Potassium, too low, too high, all those. So in the same way, here we are talking about elements that we are talking about, the gross elements, the pancha. Bhutani, 5 gross elements. So everybody has all the 5, but in different proportion. The mix is different. For example, when the Agni Tattvam is dominant in a person, it is called Pitta Shariram. These terms, most of you would have heard. Pitta. When Vayu Tattvam is a little bit more predominant in that person, it is called Vata Shariram. And when the Jala Tattvam is a little bit predominant, it is Kapha. Kapavada Pittam. In Ayurveda, they use these terms. So if somebody's body is Kapha Shariram, water is a little bit out of range, more than normal. And the bodies are subject to the varieties of diseases due to the predominance of one or the other. So these days, as I said, we do this blood work and all that, figure out whether they are within range or out of range. In the Ayurveda science calls it Pitta Prakritam, Kapha Prakritam, Vata Prakritam, meaning the body is prone to Pitta, Vata, and Kapha. And various diseases are caused when they go out of balance. Which element dominates a particular body? Shankaracharya does not say that here, but we have seen in Tattva Bodha, where it is said, Panchikrita Panchamahabhutani Kritam Tat Karma Janyam. It is the karma that determines the constituents of the physical body. What type of body you will have. Pitta, Kapha, or Vata. All that depends upon your karma. The body you get is karma janyam, born because of your karma. So that you can experience whatever papa punya with this particular body only, you can experience that. Science may call it genetic, but Shastra calls it Purva Janma Karma. That is what determines the proportion. It also determines the form of the body. What body you take. Whether it's a human form or an animal. A donkey form is also Pancha Bhautikam only. A donkey is made of the same 5 elements. A monkey, same Pancha Bhautikam. A little mosquito, same. Whether it is human or animal or even plant. They all have these 5 elements, and what exactly it is, what comes to pass, depends on the karma. Thus, the Pancha Bhutas are the general constituents. And the Prarabdha karma is the Visheshaka. The Prarabdha determines what proportion those 5 elements are. And that will determine the form of the body, animal or human. And even in that, what types of diseases you are prone to and all that. How tall you are, how your metabolism is, whether you tend to put on weight easily or whether you are skinny, all that. That is all prarabdha. Not only the physical bodies are created out of physical elements, the sense objects. We have been talking in terms of human, animals, and all jivas, living things, but the inanimate objects also, the sense objects also, they are also created by the same 5 elements. The entire inert world of sense objects They are also born out of these Panchabhutas. The grand vision is that this body is also matter, the world is also matter, the interaction is only between matter and matter. The pure consciousness is aloof, it transcends the interacting body and the world. Just like now, I am talking to you and you're hearing the talk. There is an interaction between you and I. There are varieties of emotions also. You may enjoy the talk or you may not enjoy the talk. You may understand what I'm saying, you may not understand. Maybe you like the talk or maybe not. All those differences can be there. What about the light in the room? Where I am and where you are? That light, that just illumines the entire room. It illumines me, it illumines you, and makes the interaction possible. But that light does not influence the interaction, nor is it influenced by the interaction. What I say and what you get, it doesn't affect the lights. In the same way, matter transactions take place. And it is witnessed by Chaitanyam. The Chaitanyam does not get involved. So do not mix Chaitanya with Bhautika Shariram or Bhautika Prapancham. It is transcendental. It is not affected, nor does it affect anything. In its presence, everything is going on. That's all. Just like in the presence of light, all transactions are taking place. So gradually you must learn to claim the Chaitanyam as yourself. Do not get involved in the interaction, but learn to be Sakshi only, the witness alone. May you be the witness alone. Therefore, the Shariram is Panchabhautikam, Vishayas. Vishaya means object. What I've described as the objects of this world are also Panchabhautikam, made up of these 5 elements. There also, when I say I experience the world, most interesting thing is I am not experiencing the substance called the world. I don't contact the world, the substance, but the sense organs contact the 5-fold properties of the world alone. When I see, for example, my cell phone, when I'm seeing that, I'm not really seeing a substance of the cell phone, but I'm just looking at some form and color. And an object with that form and color is given a certain name, that's all. So the sense object, that color alone in the form, the object of this eyes are generally form and color we say, but color very specifically. Similarly, when I say I'm hearing that person, so I'm talking and you're all hearing me. And when you say you are hearing me, I am the object of that hearing. You really are not hearing me at all. You hear the sound that is coming from me. It is the sound which is the real object. I am not the object of your ear. I may say, lend me your ears. But what you really are getting is only the sound that comes out. So also, I am not the object of your eyes, and you are all not the object of my eyes. You see only my form and color. I see you all form and color. So all this can be extended to the other other gunas, smell, taste, and touch. So it is said in the last line, matrastadiya vishayaha bhavanti. Tadiyaha of these five elements, matraha, otherwise known as tanmatra. Tanmatra, the subtle, the nascent forms, vishayaha bhavanti. They become the objects. The word tanmatra is a technical word. In the Shastra, it has two meanings. One meaning is sukshma bhutani, the subtle elements. The second meaning of the word is tanmatraha, which is panchagunaha, the five qualities. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha, respectively. Respectively, sound, touch, form, and color, taste, and smell. They are also called as tanmatraha, and these panchagunaha, otherwise known as pancha tanmatras, they are the objects of the individual. So when we talk about the objects of the world, the individual thinks there's so many objects are there. But in all this discussion, we just bring them all down to these five gross objects. When we say gross objects, for our understanding, we may say the table, the chair, etc., etc. But really speaking, nobody experiences objects in that way. For example, if you're asked to describe a flower, flower is an object. Then, if I have to communicate, what that flower is, then I will talk about the color, the fragrance that is unique to that flower, and then I touch the flower petals and I describe how does it feel to touch. So like that, we are describing the properties. So we are only contacting the properties, the sense stimuli. If you count the material objects, they are really countless. But we are actually experiencing in all of them the Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha associated with those material objects. So we say that there are only five sense objects. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Therefore, Pancha Shabdadayah, the fivefold Shabda Adayah, Shabda, etc. So, Shabda, sound, Sparsha, touch, Rupa, form and color, Rasa, taste, Gandha, touch. They Vishayaha Bhavanti. They become the sense objects. So, not a car or a pen or a cup. Vedanta calls sense object as sense stimuli. The properties of the subtle elements are called sense objects. They are bhoktuhu sukhaya. They are meant for the pleasure of the experiencer. Bhoktuhu sukhaya, for enjoying. The point is, the five elements are standing as the body. The same fives are standing on the other side as the objects. Because this body is made up of the five elements. The objects that we are experiencing, same five elements. So the five elements are enjoying the five elements. That's what's going on. It's like a small baby sucking its own thumb. The baby thinks that the thumb is an object of experience, and the mouth, I, the experiencer. Now, both the mouth and the thumb are expressions of one single entity. It is a baby. But for some reason, the thumb comes out of the mouth, and the baby does not have the motor skill to put the thumb back into the mouth, happily sucking the thumb, but somehow it comes out. The poor little, the tiny baby is not able to put the thumb back into its mouth. So it begins to cry. This is the same way we are crying in this world. It's all the same five elements. Huh? We are going after those sense objects. If it is something that you like and you don't get it, you're mad, you're sad, and all. And if you were to get what you wanted, that makes you so happy. So we go through all these gyrations. No different from that little baby, which does not know the thumb is its own thumb and the mouth is also its own. This is what happens. Now, the word Vishaya is a technical word derived from the root si, si. With the prefix V becomes Vishi, which means to bind. Vishnoti badnati iti Vishaya. The fivefold sense objects are responsible for all the shackles, bondage of human beings. Either he is attached to some sounds or he is attached to some form. When you say, I like this particular person, or some music or a TV program, what are you referring to? It's only Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasagandha. In fact, the whole world is nothing but the combination of Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasagandha. The sense organs are attracted to them. The sense organs have to enjoy them. The physical body has to interact with them, come into contact with them. Therefore, the physical body is hooked to the Vishaya sense objects. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya says the entire samsara can be defined as a man's weakness for sense objects. A man or a woman needs only very few things for survival. But our weakness for the fivefold sense objects. And therefore, Shankaracharya wants to explain the human weakness. So in the following verses, there is going to be a diversion. The actual topic is only for Sthula Sharira, but Bhashyakara takes a diversion and he explains what the Sthula Vishayas are. This is the discussion on the Sthula Shariram, but being identified with this body and this body interacting in the world of objects is what is giving us so many problems. He's going to take to discussion of the Sthula Vishayas, the object, world of objects. How, because of that interaction, we suffer from samsara. Even at the time of death, we do not lose anything except the Sthula Shariram, cross body. Even though the mother, father, husband, or wife is going to continue in the form of Sukshma Shariram, when I say father, mother, husband, or wife is gone, I'm referring to this Sthula Shariram. My whole attachment is to the Sura Sharira, which scientifically looking at is only a rearranged form of Shabda Svarsha Rupa Rasagandha. The attachment seems ordinary, but is the root cause of all bondage. Therefore, the one who transcends this attachment, he or she alone can travel to Sukshma Sharira. Only after going through the Sukshma Shariram, he can go for the Karana Shariram and then on to Atma. One can never come to Atma or Atma Jnanam without dropping his weakness for the physical body. The physicality should be transcended to attain spiritual knowledge. So the author wants to emphasize this point. That's what one Western author, very much influenced by our Eastern culture, he writes. What is transformation? Transformation is nothing but transcending the form. It is transformation. Transcending the form. What's the form? The physical body, the physical world is the form. And as long as I'm attached to this physical body and the physical world, I have not transformed myself. Transcend the form. Then you are a transformed person. A transformed person alone is free. Therefore, from the next shloka onward, the sensory weakness is highlighted and how we have to necessarily transcend, go beyond all that for successful Vedantic knowledge. This is what is going to be highlighted. So we will take it up in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om